From Chicago, this is Bruce DuMont with our Beyond the Beltway analysis of national politics, featuring occasional injections of rumor and innuendo, all offered up by our panel of political insiders, pundits, power brokers, public servants, professors, and most importantly, plain-speaking Americans from coast to coast. Tonight, featuring commentary by Democrat Amara Enya, Republican Jeff Halm, Democrat Peter Hanna, Republican Stephanie Hitt, and Judge Jeanine Pirro from Fox News, author of Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. Thank you very much. I'm Bruce Dumont. Thanks for joining us tonight. 1-800-723-8289 is the phone number coming to you from the Museum of Broadcast Communications in Chicago. Our toll-free lines open at 1-800-723-8289. If you want to email me a comment, it's brucedumont@museum.tv. If you want to tweet me a comment, it's @Dumo. And if you want to join us to see and hear this program, you can go to our website, beyondthebeltway.com. It is not only this week's show, it's past shows for many, 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 many years. And, of course, you can join us live on Facebook at Beyond the Beltway with Bruce Dumont, the Facebook page. And, again, we are live each and every week on Facebook. And, again, a little bit later on, Jeanine Pirro from Fox News is going to join us in about 25 minutes on the broadcast. But I want to talk with our panel this evening. I want to talk about something else that has come up this past week, and we're going to talk about the legal issues involving the president with Judge Jeanine. But I want to talk about cybersecurity because, Peter, that's one of your areas of expertise, and there's been some conversation as to what extent the United States is preparing itself for possible meddling on the part of the Russians. And what can you say about the quality of Americans, the security of the American ballot at the moment? Are you comfortable with it? Is it going to be worse than 2016 or better?
It's really hard to say, but I'm not comfortable with it. I think there's a few factors that everyone should be thinking about. One, I mean, really just some of the crackdowns we've seen on voting rights across the country. That sort of, to me, is just sort of an underlying issue across the nation. Two, a lot of the states have their own sort of internal processes for ensuring that the ballot, that voting is obviously not being, the integrity isn't being compromised. And, some of the states are doing more, some of the states are doing less. And I could say, I guess the third factor is the federal government, or frankly, the Trump administration, has not done nearly enough to get out there and, really mandate and require all states to ensure that the ballot integrity is there. It doesn't help also that we have a president who seems, some mornings to wake up and say, I'm going to be supportive of my intelligence community, then what they've concluded that there's not just meddling in 2016, but ongoing meddling and meddling in 2018, already predicted. And then some mornings he wakes up saying, no, Russia didn't meddle. Russia won't meddle. Everything is fine. It also is really disturbing to have a president who tells his base and tells people at rallies, forget about what you see or what you read or what you hear. Trust me, it's all fine. So I think that really all kind of combines into making it a really uncertain, and that's very dangerous when it comes to voting, because that's the one thing you do need, certain ballot.
So Jeff Halm, he went well beyond the question. So he hit his points,
right?
So we'll let you hit some back.
So there's two issues here, right? One is, did Russia try to influence the outcome of the 2016 election? The answer is probably yes, right? They do it in every country that they view as either a strategic opponent or somebody that can be influenced.
It isn't
right?
even probably yes.
Right.
Yes.
The second issue, which tends to be conflated, is whether votes were changed, or whether the Trump campaign actually received material support from Russia. The answer to that is absolutely not, right? And if we really are worried about ballot security, then we should move back to paper ballots. Paper ballots are unhackable, right? I mean, electronic voting machines are awful anyway. I mean, who even uses one of those?
They don't. Right? Yeah, there's always a glitch. I mean, I think some of the things that Peter is saying is he is clearly responding to some of the rhetoric of Donald Trump, and I will lay that out there, is that we do have a president who speaks one way. It doesn't mean that's necessarily how he always acts or what's really going on in the administration or within the cabinet. I also think that we do have, and this is something, this warning was sent out to Obama under his administration as well, and there's no claim that he as a president took Russia seriously, let alone cybersecurity seriously. However, I do
But again, there is testimony that his chief cybersecurity officer was told to stand down by Susan Rice. Stand down. Don't worry about it.
Right.
The next administration will worry about it.
And however,
And again, states were warned during the Obama administration. States were warned that something was happening. So I mean, there was
but
warning.
there was not the commitment towards, I mean, I know Peter's calling for this commitment from Trump, but that commitment was rejected by Obama. But what the point I really want to get to here is, those are, again, the layers of rhetoric, the layers of administration. I do think that we have agencies, our FBI and our NSA, those people, the people that work in those agencies every single day and have committed their lives to the security of this country, they are committed to the security, and they are fighting this. It is, and it's not just Russia, it's China, it's Korea.
I want to hear from Amara.
Well, part of the issue is when the legitimacy and credibility of those agencies is undermined by the president's rhetoric. So knowing that there are individual staff working in those agencies on these issues of cybersecurity, but then to have the president out front publicly essentially delegitimizing their work or calling into question what it is that they're doing is not helpful to the work that they are doing.
Let me just follow up on that. We're talking about the Trump administration and how they're responding, and the questions that they have about whether or not they're going to believe every aspect of the intelligence that's put before them. Okay? The president, when he was running for the office, said that he questioned some of the evidence that was being presented that was the justification of the war in Iraq. Faulty evidence that was being presented by Colin Powell and others. Your side of the aisle were questioning that. Some on the Republican side were questioning that. Donald Trump was questioning that. Donald Trump won a Republican primary against 16 other people that supported the intelligence community. Donald Trump was just saying, wait a minute, you're not that, you're not infallible.
Right, but when he's meeting with Putin and publicly making statements that seem to delegitimize the United States intelligence community.
But he's being supported by Pompeo, who says that those meetings were successful, that good things are going on. So you're criticizing maybe some of this rhetoric, but when it comes at the end of the day, when it comes down to it,
the actual policy,
what's actually happening, what's being done, the agencies and Trump are on the same
Secretary
page.
Pompeo, was kind of squirming before questioning earlier this week, just trying to answer the question: are the president's tweets policy, or do they come from somewhere else? So I mean, I don't really trust where Pompeo says policy is. But to your point about the ballot, election integrity is not just about can the voting machine be hacked? Right. It is, where is the money coming from that's going to election campaigns? How are the social media outlets being modified or affected by others?
Do you think that a $40,000 Facebook ad buy had a material impact on the election?
I think it could have, in this election.
$40,000.
I think it could have, absolutely. If it's in the right district, in the right place, and you just think it's the right number of votes.
Is it what kept Hillary from going to Wisconsin in the closing days of the race?
Hey, I was Hillary's campaign manager.
Just saying.
Like Bill, I would have told her, get to Wisconsin.
Bill was screaming.
We're calling people deplorable. There you go.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk more about the president and whether or not he should trust the intelligence community, and Judge Janine coming up in 15 minutes.
If you look hard enough, go off the beaten track far enough, you'll find an America teeming with the unusual, the odd, the downright strange.
I'm Will Klinger, and I'm your guide on a package tour we like to call
Wild Travels. Join us on our weekly road trip to see America's most offbeat and unusual attractions. Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. on WTTW Prime.
Live from Chicago, it's Saturday Night Live, The Experience. For the first time ever, get an inside look at the making of SNL. Over 500 artifacts direct from the show. Be a part of Wayne's World, Weekend Update, and so much more. Experience all it takes to put the show together. Now at the Museum of Broadcast Communications at 360 North State Street in Chicago. For tickets, visit museum.tv.
A line is a powerful thing. It connects the global economy to your living room. Cleaner air to stronger markets. Factory floors to less crowded roads. Today's progress to tomorrow's promise. Norfolk Southern. One line, infinite possibilities.
Back in Chicago, one of the things we were just talking about is why Donald Trump has maybe not 100% support of the, or not understanding and confidence in the intelligence community. And I want to put it in context because we all know, and even Donald Trump knows, that, I mean, the ball was dropped by American intelligence during the campaign of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because they had reported to President Obama that there was things going on involving Russia, and the Obama administration chose not to aggressively pursue it, chose not to publicly report it, and Susan Rice ordered the security head of the Obama administration to stand down and not make a big deal of the issue because they thought a new president was coming along that they thought was going to be Hillary Clinton. So they wanted to keep this quiet. They did not go public.
It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
That's true, but sometimes you've got to choose. But here's the other point: the people who were the people in charge when all of this was going on? James Comey was at the FBI. James Clapper was at the NSA. And John Brennan was at the CIA. You had three top national security investigative agencies, and not one of them was able to stop what Russia was doing. Now, I got to tell you, if I'm a new incoming president and I know that Russia has meddled in the campaign, and I think Donald Trump has known that for a long time, the first people that I fire, the FBI, the NSA, and the CIA. And that's exactly what he does. There's no reason why he should have had any confidence in John Brennan, Comey, or in James Clapper. None. And you know, how do we know that now? Because two of those three, one wrote a book, and the other three are paid hacks to NBC and CNN. And the president is talking about having their security withdrawn, and they probably should. They blew it. They made the mistakes.
Well,
do you agree with what I just said, or
no,
don't?
I mean, you've laid it out, and they did say during the under the Obama administration that he did have a conversation with Putin that at the time they were unsure of, they didn't want to raise the alarm because they weren't really sure what exactly was happening, and so he had the conversation. But
isn't that their job to know what's happening?
So they knew, but they didn't know.
Yeah, I think Obama was afraid of Putin, to be honest.
I want to get Peter's response.
So I mean, I think the way you laid it out, obviously, is tells a compelling story. But I mean, here's the bottom line: if Obama had gone out there and publicly said Russia's trying to mess up this election, you know, they want Hillary Clinton to lose, it would have been a disaster, and it would have been unprecedented to have a sitting, you know, lame duck president get out there and basically take a stake in the election. So I think if Trump had taken
Obama
office,
campaigned for Hillary?
He did, but I'm saying,
isn't that taking a stake in the election?
I'm sorry, taking a stake in an election where you're simply trying to use basically intelligence to.
But much like Comey,
just make one point about
parts of the FBI tried that.
Make your point. Make your point.
The main point: if Trump had taken office and said, Clapper, Comey, Brennan, you're out. There was obvious evidence that Russia interfered or tried to interfere. And you know what? I acknowledge they did, and I've been inaugurated, and here we go. We would be having a very different conversation. Instead, he's waffled a million times, and you know, like I said, every morning he wakes up, and it's a question whether he will say like they didn't meddle, I didn't know, I didn't know.
And this is where
it's more. I think what he vacillates on is collusion. Now, granted, he has not been as emphatic as he should have been about meddling. Meddling should have been a clear understanding. But the point is, the people that didn't stop the meddling are the three people that he fired. By the way,
and
everyone knows,
Yeah.
you know, James Comey would have been fired if Hillary Clinton had been elected. Maybe faster.
Right.
Maybe faster.
But
But
his
the
situation-
election is small potatoes here, right? The interference in the election is small potatoes. The bigger intelligence failure during the Obama administration was the Office of Personnel Management hack that was likely done by China. I mean, this has it's like digital Pearl Harbor is thrown around with the interference in the election, but the OPM stuff that's actually about sources and methods. I mean, Lockheed was digitally intruded upon so many times that they had to keep changing the plans to the F-22 because it's supposed to be a stealth fighter.
But
like all of this happened during the Obama administration, and they didn't do anything.
But part of the issue is not that there are hacks and that there is that systems will be compromised, because that's pretty much a given. I think at issue here is when was it reported, and the time frame that things happened. So much like the quandary that Jim Comey found himself in when he was saying something about the emails, announcing this email scandal days before the election, and he states, "Well, if I was afraid if I didn't come out, that it would seem as though I was colluding with Hillary Clinton."
I wanna go on
But
record
he
to
worried
something-
too much about what people were thinking about.
Comey has
but
a savior
now,
complex.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've
it's
got-
clear from his book.
And we do have a scarier onion layer revealed, and that is, you know, the Peter Strzok and all of that.
We've got to go to a call. Let's go to Jean, listening to us in Austin, Texas. And she's listening to us on KLBJ. Go ahead, Jean.
Hi, it's Singing Lady Banana Bread. I used to call in years ago, but I want to say hi and tell all the guests some of the things I agree on both sides. I voted for Hillary. My husband voted for Trump. And only thing I can say is I don't understand why everyone is trusting Putin, because they have so many human rights violations. I'm a musician here in Austin, and I tell, you know, my husband starts talking, oh, Russia this, Russia that. Why is everybody against Trump? On and on and on. You know what I say? Go get a visa and go visit Russia, and you go speak out. He's a musician also. I go over there, speak out in Russia, and you see what happens to you. Second, why is the borders on the Canadian line? No one's talking about that. Nobody. I'm Mexican-American, by the way. It's upsetting. It's upsetting. And there's
Because hundreds of thousands, Jeannie, hundreds of thousands of people are not coming into the country from the Canadian border without passport.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
I don't agree with that.
show me some facts.
I'll also say it's because the face of immigration is typically looks a certain way. So it's being cast as the illegal immigrants are coming from the southern border are Mexican, even though we haven't talked about Central and South America.
Right.
So it's because there's a certain face that is attached to illegal immigration. And so you're not talking about folks coming in from Europe that are illegal, and folks who've been able to blend into this country.
The important thing here with regards to Russia is the difference between the rhetoric and the policy, right? So yes, some of his rhetoric has been head-scratching at best. But if you look at the policy, it's increased lethal aid to Ukraine, something that the Obama administration would not do. It's a strengthening of the Magnitsky Act, which goes after the finances of Putin's oligarchs, which actually hits them where it counts, rather than just trying to do what Mueller's doing and indicting 12 Russians that will never actually step foot in the United States. If you look at the actual policy there in the Department of Defense and all that kind of stuff, it has been incredibly tougher on Russia than anything under the Obama administration. I mean, in Syria, U.S. troops killed something like 200 Russian soldiers that were trying to storm a position. It was a complete bloodbath. And that's it. The policy is different from the rhetoric.
I want to go back to Jean. Jean, go ahead. The last word to you.
I appreciate you bringing on all these guests with all the different, angles and how they feel. But
Yeah.
I just personally feel that, I also am battling stage 3 breast cancer. I have no health insurance. I'm a musician with no health insurance. And I'm over $200,000 in debt with debt collectors banging on my door. What's Trump going to do about people like me? Like, seriously, everyone's arguing about, health insurance. But it's like, I feel like I want to just say, here. This is me. This is reality. This is what's happening to me. And, I just feel like, I almost feel a little lost in my own country, if that even makes sense.
I mean, the point is your personal experience is obviously very devastating. Anybody that's going through that and battling cancer, I know from a firsthand that how difficult that is to an individual and to a family. But again, in this particular case, is your husband able to? Is he giving you the assistance that you need personally?
Absolutely. absolutely. I'm
Okay, now here's
absolutely-
what's happy about your story. Okay, you painted the sad side, and we live in a country where we have people at each other's throats based on their politics. Okay, you're a Hillary supporter. Your husband is a Trump supporter, and you're still helping each other. You still love each other.
Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah.
Politics keeps both of your blood boiling, I'm sure. Now tell me about the banana bread.
Well,
Is the banana bread keeping you happy as well?
Yes, I'm not
Okay.
sad anymore, but thank you so much. No, believe me, it's not all so sad. Trust me.
Well, no, that's good. If you've got
you
some
know.
banana bread and your husband and you're both musicians, that you probably make beautiful music together.
It's like a happy household.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
if anyone's listening and wants to look up my music, I have new music on SoundCloud, Singing Lady Revolution.
Okay.
Yeah, please, it's free. Just
Anybody listening on KLBJ in Austin? It's one of the great music cities of the United States, and we've heard from one musician. So good luck with your husband. Keep talking politics. Keep the blood flowing, and take that banana bread whenever you need it. Okay. All right. Thanks for your call.
Well, I was going
Stephanie.
to say, I think Jeannie hit on something that we haven't really talked a lot about today, and that is, we've been talking about Russia, immigration, and trust in our agencies. But Jeannie hits the nail on the head, and that is, at the end of the day, when Americans go to the polls, they go based on what is going on in their lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And are these politicians listening to what's going on in their lives? And to be honest, when I talk to people out there, we love to talk about Russia. For 99% of the people
No,
out
they
there,
could care
Russia
less.
is noise.
It's not even top
all
10.
noise.
It's not even top 20.
Exactly. It's the economy or healthcare.
It is the economy, and the economy is good at the
Booming.
moment. And the question is it going to be good in November? When we come back, we're going to be joined by Judge Jeanine Pirro from Fox News. She's authored a new book. She's going to be talking about that book when she returns. So if you're big fans of Judge Jeanine, stand by. She's coming up here in about 3 minutes. Don't go away.
Stage and screen star Stacy Keach is Ernest Hemingway in Pamplona, directed by Robert Falls. A tour de force about a force of nature. Pamplona transports you to Spain in 1959, where Hemingway is desperate to reclaim his glory. Despite winning the Nobel and Pulitzer Prizes, the literary warrior is feeling the weight of his own legend. Enter the life and mind of this creative genius. Pamplona at Goodman Theater.
Honey, what's the best vacation we've ever had?
This one.
Bradenton, Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key. Real, authentic Florida. Plan to visit online at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
Moving our economy for 160 years. BNSF, the engine that connects us.
Bruce DuMont back. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. And we are now joined by Judge Jeanine Pirro. Judge, are you with us this evening?
I am. How are you?
Terrific. We're delighted to have you. She, of course, is one of the big stars of Fox News, and she's author of a new book called Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And we're joined in Chicago by four of our regular guests on Beyond the Beltway. And I want to begin with you with a couple of contemporary questions and then get into the conspiracy that you think that the president is a victim of. But the legal maneuvers of last week involving Michael Cohen and releasing tape recordings of conversations with his client, Donald Trump. How does that change, if anything? How does it change the case against Donald Trump that's being built?
Well, I don't know that it changes much at all, other than Michael Cohen is a classic example of someone that the feds have something on that we can suspect based upon their seizing everything pretty much in his office, his hotel room, and his home. And I think that what we're hearing, and I had Rudy Giuliani on my show Justice last night, is that the tape that we've all heard possibly has been tampered with. And I think if anyone listens to it, all of a sudden it's very clear. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump says check, and Cohen is saying cash, and then it's dead. So one of two things happened. Either Michael turned the tape off or someone tampered with it. But, we don't know what Michael Cohen is giving to the feds, but I suspect he's giving him something.
In the state of New York, is it illegal to tape someone either on a phone or in an office?
Well, no. New York is one-party state, and all it takes is the consent of one party.
Okay.
Michael Cohen was the one party. He can consent, so that's not illegal. But
okay.
Certainly, a lawyer taping a client is questionable at best. And now it's out, and apparently, this is my understanding, CNN got it, and Maggie Haberman, I believe, said that
right.
Either Rudy or the president gave it to CNN, something like that. So you have to wonder if Cohen and his lawyer, Lanny Davis, did.
Right, I know, because Lanny obviously is very close to CNN and has been out there a long time. Let me ask you this, Judge, because the subtitle of your book, which is The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy, when did the anti-Trump conspiracy begin in your mind?
Well, first of all, it didn't begin in my mind. It began in the FBI.
No, I understand.
I don't know who the poor are who are waiting in the weeks there, but I'm getting ready. Look, I think the anti-Trump conspiracy started, and we saw the veil come down with the Peter Strzok and the Lisa Page texts and emails. Will he be president? No, we'll stop it. And then the insurance policy. Think about it, guys or ladies. I don't know who's there. You don't get an insurance policy to prevent something. You get an insurance policy in the event something happens so that you can deal with it in the event the unforeseeable happens. Well, the unforeseeable for pretty much the whole country was that Donald Trump would win, given that 95% of the pollsters said, that she was going to win. And then Trump wins. So that's the unthinkable. The insurance policy is a Russia collusion investigation. And what I found fascinating is that Peter Strzok refused to answer and then claimed that the FBI wouldn't give him the permission to answer as to whether or not the investigation began before, I forget the date, maybe it was July 31st, 2016. And then when FBI came back and said he can answer it, he came back with, I don't remember when it started. That should raise a question in everyone's mind because he had not done any investigations that we know of. And, we've got a kid in the bar in London with an Australian, I believe, or Australian ambassador who's got connections to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, this is the kind of thing all you need is a map. And I talk about it in the book with footnotes, so that'll probably explain it better.
In the last segment on our program, Judge, before you joined us, we were talking about, and I was leading a discussion as to why President Trump may not trust the intelligence community. And again, obviously, a lot of people were upset with this comment in the press conference with Putin that somehow he was dishing U.S. intelligence and has not shown the love affair that a lot of presidents have with American intelligence. But my point was that if you look at the people that were responsible for investigating the meddling charges in the Obama administration, they were James Comey, they were James Clapper, and they were John Brennan. So there would be reason if I was a new incoming president, I'd worry about their competence, not about their politics so much, but their competence. And I'm wondering if you would add anything else, or are there other players or an explanation that you feel the president has for not really trusting, without questioning, American intelligence reports to him?
Well, look, I'm not going to suggest that I've spoken to the president about this, but I can tell you this. I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA for 30 years, over 30 years. And I can put together a case as good as the next, and I know a conspiracy, and I know a con when I see it. So, the reason Americans elected Donald Trump, think about this, is because when the guy first came on the scene, we were so tired of political correctness, and this guy spoke in a totally unpolitically correct way. So when he was asked the question, and he said that he misspoke and we had moved on, but whatever. I want to focus on this. You've got John Brennan, who literally hates Donald Trump. He says his meeting with Putin was enough for him to be charged with treason. Treason, of course, punishable by the death penalty.
Yeah.
This guy Brennan hates Donald Trump. He's the head of the Central Intelligence Agency who voted for a communist for president. I mean, give me a break. Then you go to James Clapper, who gets in front of Congress and lies. This guy is the director of national intelligence. And Clapper said when they say to him, do you spy on Americans? No. Are you sure you don't spy on Americans? Well, no. Well, not wittingly. And Clapper's the same guy who says, I never leaked anything to the media ever. And then he has to admit, I leaked stuff to CNN. And by the way, they pay him every week now to be on television. James Comey, a guy that I liked, he was a sitting U.S. attorney when I was the elected DA, and our offices were next to each other. And honestly, this guy stepping into the lane of the Attorney General, saying no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton, when, first of all, it's not his role, and secondly, how do you have an investigation of a presidential candidate who puts our classified secrets at risk for the world to see? You don't have a grand jury, you don't do search warrants, no subpoenas, you hand out immunity like lollipops. I know enough that the only time you hand out immunity is when you can use their testimony. But they didn't want their testimony, they just wanted to give them a free pass. So I'm not going to bore you for the next 20 minutes, but I could go on for 20 minutes. You blame this guy if he's got questions? The intelligence community was openly hating him and saying he's a moron, he's an idiot, he's this, he's that. Everything told us that the intelligence community was trying to sink this guy. And you know what? The American people got it. That's why they elected him.
Judge Janine, Peter Hanna is here. He is an attorney. He's also with the ACLU. His expertise is cybersecurity. He's a Democrat, but he has a question for you.
Yes.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Judge Pirro. How are you?
I'm good.
Congratulations on your book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I did have a couple of questions that I was hoping you could kind of share your view. So with respect to the anti-Trump conspiracy that I'm sure is obviously the theme of your book, do you think that is it a successful conspiracy, and is it something that is succeeding? And do you also buy into the, I've heard a lot of talk about the, quote unquote, deep state. Do you think that that's really something in place? And I think the second part of the question is simply, your colleague and frequent guest, Rudy Giuliani, also a one-time prosecutor, what's your assessment of the job he's doing, particularly given that, a few days after he said that Cohen was an honorable lawyer, he said he's a pathological liar?
Well, okay, I'll start with the first. Do I think that the conspiracy has worked or is working? Well, I think the answer to that is it's yet to be seen. Because honestly, Peter, we have, for the last 19, 20 months, been fractured as a nation because America has been sold a bill of goods, I believe, that there is Russia collusion by Donald Trump and Russia. And so with this special counsel appointed after the Attorney General said 24 hours of his being appointed by the president, I can't do anything. Now we've got, the country is being fractured by this investigation. You know what? Give me some evidence. Give me something. When I was the sitting DA, they tar and feather me if I made accusations and then never delivered, with the facts to back them up. So the answer, and I'll leave it at that, is it's yet to be seen, the conspiracy. Some might say, yes, the fact that we are fractured is a successful conspiracy. And, the second question about Rudy Giuliani saying, was that the second question or
yes.
the third?
Second.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Look, I like Rudy Giuliani. I know Rudy Giuliani. I had him on my show last night with breaking news. But look, any attorney worth his salt, I would think, if you know that someone has worked for the president and has been, what you consider a loyal soldier, you're going to say that. But then when you dig deeper into Michael Cohen, I think it's pretty obvious that, he is looking to take care of his family and himself, and so many people in the short hairs of federal prosecutors, or of the federal prosecutors have by the short hairs, they look for anything they can find to not go to jail and protect their family. So I get that.
Judge Janine, we've got to pause for a commercial break. We will be back with Judge Janine Pirro, author of the book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals. I'm Bruce DuMont. Don't go away.
If you look hard enough, go off the beaten track far enough, you'll find an America teeming with the unusual, the odd, the downright strange.
I'm Will Klinger, and I'm your guide on a package tour we like to call
Wild Travels. Join us on our weekly road trip to see America's most offbeat and unusual attractions. Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. on WTTW Prime.
Stage and screen star Stacy Keach is Ernest Hemingway in Pamplona, directed by Robert Falls. A tour de force about a force of nature. Pamplona transports you to Spain in 1959, where Hemingway is desperate to reclaim his glory. Despite winning the Nobel and Pulitzer Prizes, the literary warrior is feeling the weight of his own legend. Enter the life and mind of this creative genius. Pamplona at Goodman Theater.
When CSX moves forward, so do the rest of us.
From coast to coast and border to border and around the world, this is Beyond the Beltway every Sunday night. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Judge Janine Pirro is with us. She's Fox News, and she is also the author of a new book called Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And Jeff Hom, who is the head of the National Republican Federation, is here in Chicago with us. And Judge, he has a question for you. Jeff?
Judge, I know your book came out a couple weeks ago, and it was probably before the FISA application releases. So, what did you think of the kind of circular logic that was used in the FISA applications, where it's the Steele dossier and then a report about the Steele dossier, and then kind of that circular chain?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I used to sign search warrants, or cops would bring warrants to me for my signature. One of the things that you do is you question the affiant, and I always found that a search warrant, was pretty much a violation of someone's Fourth Amendment rights, without the order of the court, before the court's order, and so you need to be ever vigilant and very specific about the basis of the facts that are being alleged. What they did in this case was, some would say amateurish and others would say genius. You know, you want more than one reason to issue a warrant and invade someone's privacy. But they offered two. One was the dossier that was paid for by Hillary, the DNC, and the money funneled through a law firm and then Fusion GPS and then to Christopher Steele and the Russians, okay? So, and then they offered an article by Isikoff on Yahoo as the corroboration and making it look as though from two separate sources we're coming up with this same basis for which you, Your Honor, should issue a warrant to allow us to surveil an American citizen. Now, I don't know who that judge was, but I'm not impressed. And one of the things I say in Liars, Leakers, and Liberals is this. That judge should be screaming from the highest towers, although I would understand why he, if it is Rudy Contreras, and I don't know that it is, would be embarrassed to do so because he got suckered. So if he didn't get suckered or was too dumb to ask questions, was he in on it? And why do we have a secret court to begin with? If in truth, no one really knows what's going on and they're surveilling American citizens, and do you know, Jeff, how many times that FISA court has been reprimanded for allowing interference with people's privacy? I have no more faith in that court than I do with any other court, and it's supposed to be this esteemed group of judges.
In the conspiracy that's out there, in your view, that you're observing, is there an end? When will we know if there is a winner or a loser? And is it only going to come with an impeachment and a vote, or is there something else that will happen prior to that that will let us know that maybe the president is in deep trouble?
Well, you know, your question is a very simple one, but it's also very deep. Is there a winner or a loser? There certainly is. The loser is the American public. The American public that ends up being intolerant of each other, depending upon what side you're on. People have been so ginned up with this promise of evidence of Russia collusion that we are tearing apart the very fabric of this country. You know, we are the United States of America, and all of a sudden with this allegation for which there is no evidence, ostensible evidence of collusion. And as I say in my book, Liars and Leakers, you point one finger and three fingers are pointing back at you. The only collusion I'm aware of is, you know, the collusion to sell 20% of our uranium to the Clintons with a $150 million kickback and a $500,000 speech for Bill after the approval of the sale. And don't tell me for 1 minute that, whoa, you know, it was a whole bunch of, you know, the Committee on Foreign Investments. 7 of the 9 of them were connected to the Clinton Foundation. I'd like to get all of them under oath. And the State Department's the big dog in that. You know, you want to talk about collusion. Why would the President of the United States say to Medvedev, tell Vlad I'll have more flexibility after the election? Why did the United States sit and watch Russia invade and annex Crimea? Why did the United States do nothing when they fought in the Ukraine? At least this guy, Donald Trump, is imposing sanctions. He is arming the Ukrainians at billions in arms sales. He's thrown out some of the Russian dignitaries and closed consulates. And at this point, the president has done everything that he can do. Now, look, when will we know if there's a winner? I don't know. All I know is this. When you start talking about hookers and porn stars, I don't really, with all due respect, give a damn. And if that's what we've got to do to take a president down, then I guess they're going to do it. But the American public now have an economy that is through the roof. Minorities, African Americans, women, unemployment lower than it's ever been in history. And my concern is, you know, for years we couldn't figure out, should we contain ISIS, should we dismantle, should we destroy? Well, you know what? Donald Trump destroyed them. The GDP 4.1. I don't want to be partisan here, and I must tell you, I so respect this show because you're giving me a chance to say, and you're to answer your questions, and you're asking me fair questions. but I just don't want this country torn apart anymore. I want to tell you, you want to know why that tape was released where Michael Cohen and
Judge,
Donald Trump
I've got to interrupt you because we're out of time. We're running up to the network. You know all about that. Judge Janine Pirro, author of Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. Judge, we're here every Sunday night. You're on Fox every Saturday night. You've got our number. Whenever you want to give us a call on a Sunday night, we'd be delighted to have you back on the show. Thanks very much for being with us. Thank you all for our guests.
Do that.
Okay, please do. You got my private number.
Yeah.
Again, our thanks to our guests in the studio as well. I'm Bruce DuMont. Our thanks to also Fritz Goldman and Dan Dorfman and Sam Greenberg for their assistance in the production of this program. Until next week, this is Bruce DuMont. Good night from Chicago.
Honey, what's the best vacation we've ever had?
This one.
Bradenton, Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key, real, authentic, Florida. Plan to visit online at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
Welcome to the world, 2116. You can fly across town in minutes, or across the globe in under an hour. Whole communities are living on Mars, and solar satellites provide Earth with unlimited clean power. In less than a century, Boeing took the world from seaplanes to space planes, across the universe and beyond. And if you thought that was amazing, you just wait.
Today, fresh fruits and vegetables will go from a field in California to a grocer in Miami. A bottle of beer from Eagle Pass will journey to a restaurant in Manhattan. A 2x4 in Oregon will find its way to a townhome in Denver. A hybrid will say goodbye to Detroit and hello to a showroom in Austin. While a steel beam will leave a mill in Illinois for a high-rise in Phoenix. And a flat screen in China will head to an electronics store in Memphis. Because today, as every day, wherever you find business, you'll find us.
Live from Chicago, it's Saturday Night Live, The Experience. For the first time ever, get an inside look at the making of SNL. Over 500 artifacts direct from the show. Be a part of Wayne's World, Weekend Update, and so much more. Experience all it takes to put the show together. Now at the Museum of Broadcast Communications at 360 North State Street in Chicago. For tickets, visit museum.tv.